Hello, and welcome to another video from 3.5 Archive. Today we're going to be doing another top 10 list, this time of monsters from the Monster Manual 3. The Monster Manual 3 formed a sort of bridge between the two 3.0 edition Monster Manuals, those being the Fiend Folio and Monster Manual 2, and the latter two of the 3.5 era, being Monster Manuals 4 and 5. The latter two Monster Manuals used a new stat block format which was standard for later 3.5 releases, and continued to be used in its own form into Pathfinder. Monster Manual 3 was a sort of stepping stone between the style of Monster Manuals in 2 and in 4. Whereas 2 had a more classic, strange fantasy feel to it, Monster Manual 4 embraced the grotesque so-called dungeon punk aesthetic of D&D 3.5 more fully, as well as embracing entire sections of related types of the same monster, such as the Spawn of Tiamat, or even core monsters with class levels like ogres, drow, and hobgoblins. This trend would continue on into 4th edition, where monsters of a humanoid type would have several different kinds of stat block in each section. So Monster Manual 3 occupies a unique place in 3.5's publication history, a mix of monsters that are sometimes bizarre, sometimes whimsical, and sometimes terrifying. So with that, let's get to the list of the top 10 monsters from Monster Manual 3. At number 10, we have the Arrow Demon. This 4-armed demon wields 2 longbows. It can fire into melee with no fear of attacks of opportunity, and they sometimes carry magical arrows or those tipped with special materials like adamantine or cold iron. Arrow Demons don't have the best armor class for a challenge rating 7 creature, but that's okay because they are better suited to sending in hordes of lesser demons, such as Dretches, to keep their foes occupied in melee while they rain arrows upon them from afar. Arrow Demons don't have any way of flying or anything like that, but they are still quite mobile combatants, and these demons can make quite a challenge for a mid-level party, or a higher level one if they were in groups. At number 9, we have the Battle Titan Dinosaur. With almost 500 hit points, this dinosaur is an unstoppable war beast. It doesn't have much to it ability-wise, but it doesn't need much either. Pictured in full plate barding, with a knight atop it who likely does little to make it any more terrifying, the Battle Titan Dinosaur can grab foes and swallow them whole, or simply claw them and bite them to pieces. If regular Tyrannosaurs are easy pickings for your group, you can let them try fighting a challenge rating 16 War Dinosaur and see how they feel after that. This is a great monster for a kingdom that tames dinosaurs and uses them in battle, something for the King's Champion to ride into war commanding his forces. While Monster Manual 3 broke from giving stats to actual species of dinosaurs, to the chagrin of some, the Battle Titan Dinosaur is one transgression that's easy to forgive. At number 8, we have the Gloom Golem. This golem's head is naught but a blurry vortex of wailing and weeping. Created on Hades from gray clay, its body is covered in screaming faces pressing out from underneath its skin, tortured souls crying out for release. Its wailing gives its foes penalties on attacks as it fills their hearts with despair, and its claws deal charisma damage. This monster is said to be found on the plane of Hades, but transplants to the material plane are certainly imaginable, and could haunt a dungeon of woe, an ancient mausoleum, or a particularly malevolent wizard's lair. At number 7, we have the Salt Mummy. Salt Mummies are a challenge rating 8 undead. They are essentially very tough zombies in a lot of ways, but they have fast healing and their slams carry a dehydrating impact that causes its victims to have to make a fortitude save or take additional damage, and water subtype creatures will take even more damage from this ability. Even so, most Salt Mummies won't want to go up against a water elemental, as any water splashed on them damages them as if it were holy water. This monster fits in great in a seaside ruin, a desert catacomb, or really any dry or salty place. The thought of feeling the moisture leave your flesh as this thing batters you is quite unpleasant, and overall being a creepy and unnerving monster, especially with the art, this is definitely a good number 7 on our list. At number 6, we have the Charnel Hound. This undead hound's body is composed entirely of humanoid skulls. It's huge, standing almost 20 feet tall. The novelty of a giant dog composed of corpses would be enough to be memorable by itself, but this monster also has the horrifying ability to assimilate the corpses of its foes into its body. Doing so heals the Charnel Hound of hit points equal to 3 times the victim's hit dice. Understandably, such a terrifying-looking creature also has a frightful presence ability, as well as the ability to rend with its claws, dealing extra damage if both claws hit. Its only real weakness is its aversion to sunlight, and even then you need real sunlight, not daylight, the daylight spell. These are said to roam ancient battlefields or ruins large enough to accommodate them. These would be great monsters on a haunted battlefield or in a ruined city of an ancient necromantic empire, or possibly as the guardian of a powerful lich or other intelligent undead. At number 5, we have the Drowned. Drowned are undead who died at sea, their bodies constantly dripping with water. They could be found on shipwrecks or along a rocky coastline where the bodies of drowned victims somehow washed up. They aren't much different from zombies, stumbling forward to slam their foes, but they are much stronger and tougher, with an unholy energy about them. But their most terrifying ability is their drowning aura. The air around a drowned seems heavy, and when you get within 30 feet of it, you begin to feel like you are underwater. The creature can actually drown you with the magical aura that surrounds it, using the drowning rules from D&D 3.5, except you have to start making constitution checks right away. You can drown on dry land simply being in the presence of one of these waterlogged walking corpses, and with such a strange and unique ability, it earns its spot on this list. At number 4, we have the Shredstorm. This challenge rating 8 monster is a living swarm of adamantine shurikens. They are intended to fly into enemy fortifications, slipping through arrow slits to slay the defenders. Such weapons are quite expensive to come by, requiring 15,000 gold pieces for adamantine shurikens, and access to the limited wish spell among other spells to create it. But the Shredstorm has a speed of 90 feet, and its myriad slashing blades are laced with deadly electricity. This swarm is truly terrifying, as it also effectively ignores hardness, allowing it to shred through stone if it can't find a small seam to get in through. The only thing holding it back from being further up this list is that it doesn't fit well into many adventures, but it would make a great super weapon in the war campaign, or guardian of an artificer's tomb. At number 3, we have the Cadaver Collector. This grotesque construct is covered in spikes upon which it impales the corpses it collects from the battlefield. Whether to be raised as undead, or to be questioned with Speak with Dead to gain intelligence on the enemy, or simply to be buried, Cadaver Collectors serve a useful function. Sometimes, however, Cadaver Collectors will seek out living victims as well, and when they do, they have found a particularly nasty way to kill them. It'll grab a creature, grapple it and pin it, and then fling it onto its spiky back, impaling it horribly on the rusted spikes. Such a creature will then have to get free somehow or else perish in agony. No information is given on how to create these cruel constructs, which perhaps is for the best. For such an unpleasant way of dispatching its foes, this creature gets to be number 3 on our list. At number 2, we have the Prismatic Roper. This challenge rating 9 aberration combines 2 parts of D&D, the Prismatic Spray spell and its fellows, and the Roper, a classic stalagmite imitating monster. Unfortunately, unlike the Prismatic Golem also found in this book, it doesn't replicate even a weak version of Prismatic Spray. Instead, it can use Color Spray. It also has a hypnotic coloration, which allows it to draw in prey instead of using its long sticky tendrils like regular ropers. You have to wonder where a monster like this came from. Did it split off from the bloodline of regular ropers long ago? Was it created by a wizard? And if so, was it intentional or unintentional? Perhaps some freak occurrence when a wizard tried to use prismatic spray in a roper resulted in the world's first prismatic roper. Either way, this monster is a great synthesis of one of D&D's most iconic spells and one of its most iconic monsters, and only its lack of an actual prismatic spray effect of some sort keeps it from being number 1 on this list. And finally, at number 1, we have the Living Blasphemy. This challenge rating 13 monster is one of the living spells. Monster is created when a place is so thoroughly saturated with magic that spells linger on and take on the spark of life. Technically, this creature is an ooze, but is very different from any other ooze in D&D 3.5. Living spells are a template, and while D&D 3.5 is full of templates for modifying creatures, no other template uses a spell as its basis rather than a creature. Living Blasphemy is the most powerful of these. Its name alone is horrifying, but each slam attack from this monster unleashes a blasphemy effect, which can daze, weaken, or even kill creatures hit by it, just like the spell. Against any creature of 13 or more hit dice, this monster is almost useless, and its low armor class means that characters with power attack can easily slice it to ribbons. But in the right circumstance, this creature can be absolutely terrifying. The strangeness of using a template to turn spells into monsters, and this being one of the prime examples of such, gives Living Blasphemy, representing all living spells, the number 1 spot on this list. So that's about it for this video. Please like, share, comment, subscribe, and so on. Thanks for watching, and we'll see you next time here on 3.5 Archive.